One of the reasons a lot of people fail with unit testing has to do with how they write tests. They treat their tests as second-class citizens. They don't put a lot of effort in writing clean and maintainable tests. So when a test fails, they have to spend a lot of time figuring out why the test is failing. After all the frustration, they come up with a solution that always works. They delete the failing test. Terrible solution. So in this lesson, I'm going to show you a few techniques for writing clean and maintainable tests. So look at the test we have written. It's not terribly bad. It's only 7 lines of code, but we can make it better. We can make it more maintainable. To do that, we're going to follow a very common pattern called AAA, which is short for arrange, act, assert. So we're going to reorganize our code into 3 sections. The arrange part contains all the initialization code. The act part contains the code for poking the system or triggering an action. And the assert part contains the expectation code. So let's reorganize our code into these 3 sections. Over here, we're creating 2 bug objects. These 2 lines belong to the arrange part. So let's move them to the top. Next, we're creating a fake Axios object. Again, we move this to the arrange section. Creating a store is also part of the arrange section. So let's move it to the top. Now we add a line break to separate these sections. So in the act part, we're going to dispatch this action. Once again, a line break, and then we're going to set an expectation. This is a structure that a lot of people practicing unit testing are familiar with, but we're not done yet. We can make this better. Look at these 2 lines, creating a fake Axios and store object. Pretty much every test that we're going to write in this file should have these 2 lines. So we should take these 2 lines and put them somewhere else. So over here, inside our describe block, we're going to declare 2 variables, fake Axios and store. Next, we're going to use another function provided by Jest. It's called before each. This function takes a function as an argument and executes this function before each test. This is where we can initialize our store and fake Axios objects. So I'm going to move this line over here, also the line for configuring the store. But we need to remove the const keyword because otherwise we're creating local objects inside this function. So let's remove the const keyword. We want to initialize these variables that we have declared over here, okay? Now, look at our test. It's immediately cleaner. With this, we no longer need these comments. We can use a vertical line break to separate these sections. Take a look. So delete, delete, and delete. So now we have 3 sections. It's immediately clear that this is the arrange part. Here's the act part, and here's the assert part. Now, the next thing we can improve is this long, ugly expression. It's very likely that we're going to repeat this expression in a few different tests in this file. So let's create a helper function that takes us to the bug slice in the store, okay? So I'm going to cut this expression. Now, over here, let's define a function, constant, bugs slice. We set it to a function, and this function returns this expression, okay? Now, in our test, we can simply type bug slice .list. Much better. Also, let's change the name of this test to something more explicit. What exactly are we testing here? We're testing that if the bug is saved on the server, then it's added to the store. So let's change this to should add the bug to the store if it's saved to the server. Now, this test tells me exactly what we're testing. And that makes me think we're missing a test for the fail scenario. What if the server responds with an error? So let's duplicate this test. I'm selecting all this code. Press Shift, Alt, and down to duplicate it. Let's add a second test. Should not add the bug to the store if it's not saved to the server. Okay? So in this test, we don't need this object, so delete. We should change how the fake Axios responds. So let's say it's going to respond with 500, which represents an internal server error. Now, we dispatch this action and expect the list to be empty. So, to have length of 0. Let's run our test again. We got an error because I made a mistake. This bug slice is actually a function that we should call. So, let's call it over here and here as well. Let's run our test again. Both tests are passing.